What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Through the Bible Project video. January 30th, and we are going to be hitting one of the last few chapters here in the book of Job. So thanks again for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, appreciate it. It's all starting now. Alright, 38, 39, and just a wee little bit of 40. I love Job for a lot of different reasons, but by and large, this book is so big and so heavy. I mean, I'm surprised you guys are still watching. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know. But usually how people read the book of Job, usually how I've read the book of Job, is the beginning part, you know, when God and Satan touches Job and Job loses everything. That's kind of, that's the exciting part. And usually stop, you know, really having a lot of interest in the book, you know, at the point that Job's wife says, why don't you just curse God and die, right? Because it's just argumentation back and forth, but we've been looking at it chapter by chapter, high point by high point, and wow, it has been totally enlightening, but very heavy, and I'm totally mentally drained from this book. Encouraged every day, don't get me wrong, but it's heavy stuff, man. The other part of Job that is so awesome and usually people just kind of skip over to is when God starts to talk and puts Job in his place. Somehow we really get a kick out of that. So that's all happening today. All starts in chapter 38. Now remember that Job didn't really know what was going on to him, right? He didn't know what was happening. He thought that God was persecuting him, or that God was doing this to him for some crazy reason and he couldn't figure out why. Now his accusation was that God was doing it. Now, very important to note, you can wrestle things out with God, okay? And you can bring your ignorance towards God and you can cry out and you go, why? Why is this happening to me? God, why are you doing this? And you can be completely wrong, okay? However, you're still allowed to come there and you can do all that without denying God. You could do that. Just be prepared for when God has an answer for you and sets you in your place. And this is exactly what he does to Job today. First thing that God says is this: who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Job, you're dropping the intellect of the room here right now with your words that have absolutely no knowledge or understanding behind them. Now, if God was going to say that to you, if you're not completely humbled at that point, something wrong with you. Job, I'm sure it was just nailed to the floor to begin with. I mean, God talking to you, A, but B, God comes out swinging and basically says, look at Job, you're talking out of your because you have no idea what you have no concept of what's going on here, bud. Prepare yourself like a man, he says. I will question you and you will answer me. So God's going to question Job, but there's by no means that Job's going to have an answer for this. Prepare yourself like a man. What does that even mean? I know a lot of women that are a lot tougher than me, but put on your big boy shorts. That's what that means. Get yourself ready, man. Steel yourself, because here it comes. I'm coming at you. First question for Job: where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Oh, it's kind of sarcastic too. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. It's one thing to get spoken to by a bunch of Yahoo friends of yours, but it's another thing to get spoken to like that by God. Ah, shoot, my phone. All right, time out. Sorry about that, a little telephone call. Yeah, okay, so another question. Who stretched out the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Do you have any clue? A, were you there when I laid the foundations of the earth? Do you know how I did that? And B, to what were its foundations fastened? Oh, and you're talking about the globe here and it being fastened somewhere on the universe. No one has an idea how that works except God, because His ways, His knowledge is so high. Yours is so low. Yours is so small. You have very little knowledge. What a way to counsel. God is love, I promise you it is, but sometimes you get put in your place and it's for a purpose too. It's to bring out an enriching fear of God and a greater understanding and a greater appreciation for just how powerful He is. And it's actually to build faith in Job. I know, sounds strange, weird way of doing it. You might just want to go hang out, get an ice cream or something like God, and let's just chat. That doesn't always work out that way. He's got a few more questions. Actually, the next few chapters are just God asking Job question after question after question. And the idea is just to inundate him with the reality that he has no flying clue about so many things, but that God does. So you're just gonna have to trust me, Job. Here's one. Have you commanded the morning since your days and caused the dawn to know its place? That it might take hold of the ends of the earth and the wicked be shaken out of it? This is such a complex idea. First off, he's talking about how this whole sun comes up and comes down. Of course we know it's the earth that turns and that sort of thing, but besides all the science part of it, okay? It's God who causes the sun to come and shine upon the earth, all right? But it's also God who brings the wicked to justice and brings or allows calamity to fall upon the wicked. Do you know how that's done? Do you know when that should be done? Are you wise enough to understand how it all is supposed to work? Of course not. That's God's job. I like this in verse 31. Can you bind the cluster of Pleiades or loose the belt of Orion? Do you have any clue as to how to control the stars? What? I mean, how to win an argument. I mean, yeah, that kind of thing, that kind of wisdom only belongs to God. And we are absolutely foolish to think that we know best or we know better. This is such a great reminder, and this is why I love this chapter, because it's just like, oh, what? You do that? You're amazing. Yes, we are so small. He says a lot of other things too in that chapter, and it's worth a read. Please just read it. I'm just touching on it. High points, remember? Chapter 39, my heading here is the Lord's challenge continues. Here he's going to be going into all these different little creatures that are upon the earth. Even closer down to his level. So God works his way out, brings his way in, and every time he asks you a question, no matter how far or how close it is, we have very little understanding. You see, God has designed the animals to do a certain thing, and he's talking about his design. He's talking about his control over the animal kingdom. And he's basically saying, you know, Job, can you understand this? Can you control them? Do you know them as well as I know them? Of course the answer is no. Sure, we can research. Sure, we can figure out how it works. But we have not designed them to be a certain way. For instance, he talks about the ostrich. This is really weird, but probably one of my favorite parts in this chapter. In verse 13, the wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are her wings and pinions like the kindly storks? For she leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust, and she forgets that her foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may break them. She treats her young harshly as though they were not hers. And you're like, what? Why would they do that? Her labor is in vain without concern, because God deprived her of wisdom and did not endow her with understanding. Okay. So here you go. Do you know why some animals just don't get it, don't have a clue, or do what they do? It's because look at the ostrich, lays its eggs on the ground, Thing tramples all over them, has really no regard, has no flying clue even. I'm surprised the ostrich still is alive. But you know why? Because God didn't give her wisdom or understanding. Yet he sustains them. Crazy to think about. Is there a parallel here even towards Job? You know what? If God doesn't want you to have wisdom, you can try to read all that you want, watch as much YouTube as you like. You're never gonna get it, boy. It's just shut. Door shut. God made him that way. God has done things according to his wisdom that you're never gonna understand. Okay? And it's not in your place to understand. His ways are higher than yours. And you gotta understand that we keep on wanting to be equal with God and we cannot. That's not our place. I love the end of this. Ooh, a little pigeon. I'm always scared of pigeons. Sometimes they poop on me. At the end of this, he says this. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, shall the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Oh my goodness. Okay, so you got an argument with God. Okay, you don't like the way that things run. You don't like what's happening to you. Are you going to correct God? Now just remember again who you're talking to. Is it your place to correct him? Do you have the capability to correct him? Are you more wise than him? Is it you that have made you? Have you made yourself? Have you made everything else? Do you know how it all works? I mean, people can be so stupid, including myself. Sometimes I can't even put my underwear on right. How am I gonna argue with God? It's just, I don't know if that should even be in there. But trust me, you guys do stupid stuff too. I mean, sometimes I forget that I have ice cream and I think it's, yeah, I either put it in the fridge and sometimes I even put it in the cupboard by the bowls. I don't even know what I'm thinking. Those are my very low moments, by the way. I can be intelligent too, but in my most intelligent state, my best intelligence is yet foolishness to God. And you'd be just out of your mind to think that you're any different. So after all this questioning, he says, he who rebukes God, let him answer it. And Job's response is this, and it's a proper response. Behold, I am vile. What should I answer you? I lay my hand over my mouth. Once I have spoken, but I will not answer. Yes, twice, but I will proceed no further. What have I done? That's an appropriate response. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Now, what's the Lord saying? Well, you can go ahead and you can argue with God. In fact, sometimes it's encouraged. However, if he responds to you, don't be surprised if it's something to the tune of, you need to trust me because I'm a whole lot smarter than you, a whole lot more powerful than you, been around a whole lot longer than you, and I know everything. Now, I can put my soul and the trust of my everlasting life in someone's hands like that. Why? Because he knows everything. He's all powerful, he's all knowing, he's all loving. So just because of that fact alone, I can trust him. But I can trust him even more because in his infinite wisdom, he chose to come down on earth, took a form of a man. Jesus became our Messiah and drank down all the wrath that we were deserving so that we again can be reunited with him. The concept of a Savior dying for humanity is strange. The Greeks thought it was foolishness, okay? The Jews didn't comprehend it. How does one come to save and yet end up losing his life? Well, that is the gospel. You have to understand the way that God works. He's made a way for your sin to be forgiven, a way for your sin to be covered, and it's through the person of Jesus Christ. I hope you trust in him, and I hope you have a greater appreciation for how big, how awesome God is. Thanks again for tuning in to our Through the Bible. We're 1 or 2 more chapters away, 1 or 2 more days away from being done this book of Job, and then we're into the Exodus, I think. Like, share, subscribe. I love you. Jesus loves you. We'll see you tomorrow.